Well, hello, and welcome to the Mint City Soccer Show. Didn't see you there. So, you might see that David Gussler is not here. He was a late scratch, much like Scott Arfield was Sunday. But I do have Matt Chantry with me. I hope you have a better show than Breck did game on Sunday. But Matt,
That's a low bar for me to beat, but I'll do my best.
how
I'll
are you,
try my
man? Thanks
best
for
to,
joining us.
no problem. I'll try my best to make Gusler proud. Not as many corn dog references for you guys, I'm afraid. Less Myrtle Beach vacation stories, but I'll do my best.
Well, I like your tagline here. What was it? Tea Gang and Bucket Hat Brigade. So I love that. But yeah, no, thanks. But thanks for joining us. Yeah, Gusler, unfortunately not able to join tonight, but he'll be back for some soccer and coffee on Saturday. But let's talk about the game, Matt. It wasn't a great one, but let's begin with the starting 11. What did you think about the starting 11? And then what did you think about the late scratch there?
Yeah, not surprising. I actually didn't with the Arfield scratch. I saw obviously the when the notifications pop up on the phone and from the Charlotte app and look at the team news, the same as I think 99% of other people do, and saw Arfield on. Didn't think anything about it until I got to my seat and like looked around as like the game was about to kick off, and I was like, wait a minute, that I can't see Scott Arfield. I think it might have even been 30 seconds into the game before I realized, just because I think I was up in the back when they were doing the team announcement and it threw me off. So a weird one. It's happened before in soccer. I've seen it in England a few times. You do get players getting those pre-match injuries. I think from what it sounds like, it was maybe a slight hamstring pull and they were doing it for precautionary measures more than anything else. I think it's anything serious, but player at his age, probably a smart thing to do just to play it safe. Don't blame them at all for that. Elsewhere in the 11, nothing really surprised me. It did. I guess I could go into Malanda being on the bench versus starting. They obviously thought he wasn't that bad to be on the bench, and we can get into later maybe why it would have been a good idea if he had played instead of certain other central defenders. But those two things were the only things that kind of jumped out to me. Everything else was pretty much what we expect at this point.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on Malanda, but I want to go back. What are your thoughts on Arfield starting over Brecht? Is that concerning to you, or do you think that's tactically, or what are your thoughts around that?
I think Dino doesn't know who he wants to play there yet. I don't think he's had a solid enough performance from either one over a prolonged period of time to know who his best cam is at this point. So I think he's still testing it out. Clearly, he's got at least 9 of the other 11 players now down in the 11 at this point. But that cam spot, more than any other, I don't think he knows. I think he's just trying to see what he can get to work at this point out there. You might see other players come into that position in the future. Clearly, we're not going to get someone at this point in the window, as you guys have spoken about previously. But maybe Bender comes back and goes in that position. I don't know. Maybe he moves a winger into the cam spots, try and get something out of it. I think he's still trying to work out what to do there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. It's unfortunate that Scott couldn't go, because I really wanted to see what he could do in the middle, and definitely with what we got, anything would have been better. Unfortunately, well, let's go back to Malanda. You mentioned that he was on the bench. I didn't think that he would start, but I was surprised that he was on the bench at all. I figured they would just leave him off the roster, but and I guess hindsight's 2020. Bill did not have a good game again. But what are your thoughts around like Malanda being on the bench, and then of course like Bill's performance?
Totally agree. Not to be boring and not create controversy, but I do totally agree with you. Usually in that position, you're having someone either not playing at all, or not even in the squad, or in the starting 11. Being on the bench feels kind of like neither. Like, are you worried about him being injured or not? Like, it's not like he's lacking match fitness. He's not been out that long. He's, what is it, a week and a half, right. 2 weeks. So he's still definitely going to be match fit. From the videos we saw training, he looked like he was moving around okay. Obviously, they know more about it than I do. I'm just usually in that situation, either not in the 11 at all, or they're in the 11. The bench feels like a weird halfway house. I don't quite understand.
Yeah, and I think my internet's breaking up just a little bit. So sorry about that, guys. But do you have concerns about the way we played Sunday night? Do you think this is a kind of a one-off game? And I say that because no matter how good you are, no matter what team you're on, you're going to just play horribly sometimes. And I'm hoping that's kind of the case. I was very emotional after this game. I tweeted out, I haven't been that mad in quite a while with the squad. I don't mind losing. It's just in the way that we did. But was it surprising to you, or you've watched a lot of football? Like, is it just kind of like it's just one of those nights?
Yeah, a bit of both. It's sometimes everyone has one of those nights, especially when you're not a top like 1-2 level kind of team, which we're not yet. I think we could become that in time. I've said that a lot recently. I don't think we're there yet. I still think we're maybe like a 5th, 6th kind of place, kind of level team as we are right now. So when you're in that kind of position, you're going to have bad days now and again. Just no one is that consistent unless you're one of the very top teams in the league. However, I'm hoping that it doesn't turn into a trend. The next game or two, we're going to see whether it's a blip or a trend for sure. There are some things about the game which make me think it's maybe more likely a blip. For example, the first 25, 30 minutes, we were okay. I don't think we were great by any means at that point in time, but we had some chances. Bill's header there was a great save from their keeper. They had a good effort as well in that time frame, and where Kalina tipped one around the post too. But we looked decent. But then the first goal went in, and it all kind of went to hell at that point, and that completely changed the game. And you hear that a lot sometimes, that the first goal is like is everything in a game, and this was one of those games where that first goal was massively important, because Minnesota are very, very compact defensively, and they're not going to screw anything up. And we kind of just got desperate after that point, and were making mistakes here, there, and everywhere. And it got worse and worse as the game went on. Obviously, letting the second goal, letting the third goal. So if we got the first goal, maybe it would have been different at that point, because Minnesota wouldn't have been able to be as defensive as they were and hard to break down. They would have had to be more ambitious in their play. But that first 25 minutes gives me a little bit of hope that maybe this is just a blip and we can correct ourselves, because everyone, almost to a man, was off their game. There was poor performances across the team.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, no one played well. It's kind of shocking to me, but just to kind of, put this in perspective, and sometimes I have to, be my own psychiatrist and calm my own self down, getting on this show and talking things through. I was pretty upset, but like, I look at Columbus last year, who won MLS Cup. They lost 9 games, and then if you look at St. Louis, who we really compared ourselves to last year, they won the West, but they lost 12 games. So that's a lot of games to lose. So I'm hoping that, we had this long unbeaten home streak. Maybe we can start again. And I'm just hoping this was a one-off game. Just nothing seemed right. Nothing was going our way. We couldn't get shots on goal. Like, Bill's header, I think, was the only shot we actually had on goal. No one played well. And if, kind of going back to Malanda not being there, I thought the back line did not communicate well. There were chances very early on. I think the save that Kalina had to make in like the 2nd or 3rd minute, like, Bill and Jalen were not on the same page. It just seemed like everything was thrown off, and just not our night. yeah, we have to go back on the road and try to sort that out, and hopefully it's just a one-off thing. But like, yeah, I have to kind of remind myself yet again that like, don't get too high, don't get too low, and remember that the best teams in the league. There's so much parity. It's not like any other league in the world, and you can lose 6, 7 games and still be perfectly fine. So
Who was the team
I'm
last
hoping the
year?
winner loves.
Who was the team last year in the West that lost a ridiculous? It might be, I think it was in the West that just lost a stupid amount of games at the start of the season. Was it Sporting Kansas City? We're just off to a horrific start for the first 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
and still made the playoffs, and then won a series in the playoffs. So that tells you what you need to know about MLS.
Yeah, it's wild, and you never know. You try to, for us specifically, I think we all kind of have talked this to death. Like, we got to try to get to the summer and get some reinforcements, but you never know what's going to happen. And as long as we're progressing, I'm fine with it. But again, I think this next game on the road is going to be very telling about how they get up for it. Westwood said that this is not typical of them, and I think is maybe a wake up call too. Like, whether you're at home, no matter how many fans are there, you got to give the fans something to cheer about. You got to get more shots on goal, and you just got to play better. But again, I kind of go back and not maybe, I'm always optimistic. Like, hopefully this is just a one-off blip game.
Yeah, I do wonder. Like, as a fan before that game, I was definitely guilty of maybe overlooking it a little bit. And maybe the players did too. I don't know. I can't say that. I'm not in their heads, but I was in my head definitely. I was looking at, we're going to be in 4th place when we win. I was kind of like, yeah, we're at home. It's against Minnesota, who aren't like, they're not awful, but they're not the greatest team. I thought, we're at home. This is going to be a Charlotte FC victory. In my head, I said that to myself before the game, which was stupid of me. But that's what football fans do. We're irrational sometimes.
Yeah, no, I was the same way. I thought this was a good game for us. It's a Western Conference foe that has to come to our house to play. They're missing a big component of their team, and I thought that they were ripe for the taking, and this was going to be a good win for us. But it ended up being one of the worst performances I've seen. I think this one in the New England match is the worst I've seen us this year. We just looked really, really poor, and we didn't get off to a great start. We didn't execute on the chances that we had. I remember there was a breakaway that we had off a corner pretty early that Abada, of all people, had the ball on the breakaway, had Westwood wide open to his left, and for some reason he ended up finally getting him the ball.
Getting the ball like under his feet a little bit as he was running with it, and couldn't quite get it out far enough to be able to make the next move. In that, I remember the same play.
Yeah, and Westwood ends up getting it to Vargas, who like, puts the ball over the goal, and like, instead of low again, like, it's just it just was not a good night for us. I can't look at a single player and be like, yeah, they played pretty decent. Like, even my man Uranen had a horrible game. I think it was that first goal. He got beat pretty bad. Which led to that first goal, and then there was another one. I can't remember if it was. I think it was the second goal too. He's tracking back, and just doesn't hustle all the way. Now that goal came from like the case for like Bill or Andrew should be in that spot. But it was just a calamity of errors all night. We just played awful. So, and guys, for those watching, and put your questions in. We'll answer those. Corey's in the background. He's going to be doing some. He's going to hop on in a little while and do some Q&A. But feel free to keep your questions rolling in. We'll try to answer them as we go. And Corey, if anything you want to throw up question wise that's coming up, feel free, and we'll try to hop on it. So that's Fat Bird back from vacation. Johnny asked, according to. You need to go back on vacation, man. According to FootMob, our highest rated player from the starting 11 was a half a point lower than their lowest rated player. I think Bill was the lowest rated player, right? Maybe I think him and Kalina.
I'm looking at FootMob, and I've got Kalina and Capetti were at 5.6 for us, and Bill was at 5.8. Not that anyone covered themselves in glory, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. And I know we're going to get a lot of questions about it, so let's just go ahead and we'll jump in it now. Let's talk about our attack. Let's talk about Capetti. Let's talk about Patrick. Like I said, I was pretty heated after the game, or in like right at the end of the game, and I may have tweeted out I would like to send Capetti and Breck to the moon, um, which is a not a nice thing to say, but how do you think that Capetti played? Are you willing to give him some more chances? Do you think it's coming? What are your thoughts?
I go back and forth on him so much. He's one of the most like hard to read players I feel like in my time watching sport. He, I look at it a bit this way. The previous match, the Toronto game, is a game where most players played pretty well to very well. And then obviously this game, most players played very, very badly. So I always find it hard to judge how well a player did in a generally bad team performance because you didn't know how much of that was like the other players around him not doing what they were supposed to be doing and just generally what was going on in the game. But if you've got a really good team performance and they're still performing poorly, then he's starting to think, well, he's probably the player himself then at that point. And he wasn't great against Toronto either. I did see some hot takes about him being like the worst player ever in the world and stuff like that, which he clearly is not. But he wasn't great in the Toronto game either. Like just putting that out there, he was not great in that game either. And we managed to score 3 goals in that game, and we had lots of chances. What worries me about Capetti most of all, this is something I said in Slack this week, is that he doesn't seem to put himself in positions to score. He doesn't get in the center of the goal around the penalty spot as we do attacks. He drops back too far sometimes. He goes too wide sometimes. I think he's like, it's almost like he's trying to push himself too hard to get the ball and be involved in the play versus being in a spot where he can be an outlet for us, where he can be a focal point. I don't know whether that's a mental thing, whether that's part of the team game plan. I don't know, but I don't feel like he misses too many chances, to be honest, this season. I can't look back and be like, oh, Capetti sort of scored 6 goals by now, because he doesn't get in position enough to score. That's what concerns me the most, is that he's not in position enough. Pat, when his goal against Toronto came on, and the reason he scored was because he was back a little bit, but he saw where Brex was coming in, and then absolutely was aggressive going to the goal, going to the ball, and getting right in front of the goal to try and score that. I never see that from Capetti. He never seems to be like, I'm going to get this goal no matter what type player. Maybe that's because of his history as a fullback back in the day. I'm not sure, but he doesn't seem to have that like selfish, I'm going to score a goal no matter what attitude that a striker has sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I think he's trying super hard, maybe too much, trying to do too much. I think too Brecht is not helping him at all with that link up play. But you're right. I don't think he's getting in good spots to get shots off. I think that's part of the problem. I think he's floating. Him and Brecht, I think, are both floating in pockets of space they shouldn't be in. But again, kind of going back to self-therapy here, like getting on here and talking this through, like I need to remind myself that literally on Soccer and Coffee, I was like, I'm going to give Capetti, this batch of home games. And then after that, I'm going to make a real determination. And then literally after one game, I'm like, oh, so I have to kind of like check myself a little bit there. I want to believe in him and I want him to do well. He needs more service, but also too, he has to do things himself to get him in good spaces. I think sometimes too that he overcommits and over presses. And there's certainly been times like the rest of the team is not really on board with that too. So it makes no sense for him just to go when the rest of the team is not engaged. So I think that's where the coach has to kind of like, hey, I love that you're pressuring the ball. Maybe don't go so much, here or there, or like, hey, maybe you look at the team like, all right, if you see Capetti go, we all have to go because you have to do this as a team.
Yeah. The game was one of the first games where I've seen. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
There was a sound delay. It was one of the first games where I've seen, I'll use the word petulant. Capetti came back a little bit at times. you could see him getting a little bit upset with not at anyone in particular. I think just the situation, which we all were, to be fair. But he definitely seems to curb that from his game this season a lot, which I appreciate that he's been able to do that and been a lot more even keeled. But definitely saw that come back again a little bit this game, and hopefully it was a one-off as well, the same as we hope the whole game was a one-off.
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse here though, but like my big thing is we keep giving Capetti kudos for hustling and being a team player. And at some point, like, yeah, that's kind of like the bare minimum of what you need to do, right? Like at some point you also have to produce. It can't just be like, oh man, you hustle and oh man, you cheer when we score. It's kind of what you're supposed to do. So I think people's patience are running thin, but also too, I do sometimes think, and I'm guilty of it too, just over exaggerating just how, maybe poor he is and everything. But for me to get paid what he does and then have Patrick paid what he is, it shouldn't be that close. It shouldn't be like, oh man, who should be starting? Like it should not be a question. It should be Capetti starting. It should be Patrick learning under Capetti and learning from the team and just getting, some minutes throughout the season. But it's like neck and neck for me. And then sometimes I'm like, I'd rather Patrick start. It should not be that. So at some point, Capetti's got to start getting off the mark, because you can't just keep giving him kudos for hustling. So
yeah, I do like Patrick coming off the bench for him. I think that usually works really well, where you have Capetti kind of wearing the defense out, and then Patrick's coming on to like just knock over the bowling pins a little bit. As like the big ideas, they're so tight at that point, he can just like breeze right through them. But we also can't wait until 70 minutes to be able to have a striker on that we think is capable of scoring for us every game. That's just not sustainable.
Yeah, for sure. What did you think about Vargas? He had that chance early, but what did you think about him Sunday?
I don't think he was great. Again, the whole team wasn't great, so I find it hard to judge him. I didn't like that he's at the end of the first half switched wing spots with Abada, and Dino's done that a couple of times. And before the season, he mentioned about he thought Vargas might be good on the right, and I don't agree with that at all. Vargas is definitely better on the left, and I thought we were significantly worse when we were bad anyway, but we got worse. I think when they swapped, they're vastly better with Abada on the right and Vargas on the left. He was poor, saw a lot of misplayed passes. Obviously, the shot that you mentioned didn't seem to be on the same wavelength as the players around him. It wasn't. I actually don't think it was his worst performance of the season. A couple of the away games, I thought he was maybe a little bit worse than he was on Sunday, but it was just in line with where the rest of the 11 was. It was a lot of mistakes, a lot of misplayed passes, a lot of making the wrong runs at the wrong times. Not great. Not to be a downer. I feel like it's hard not to be a downer today. Maybe this is why Gus. Maybe this is why Gus is not here today. It's like I want to come back when we win.
I think they
let the sad English
exactly. He only. Yeah, he only shows up when we win. That's a good strategy, actually. We did get to see Tavares for a little bit. Unfortunately, he misses a wide open header. Again, no one played well. So, but he hasn't had many minutes, and he gets in and has a chance to like stake his claim on getting more minutes or pushing for a position. And this is a header, man. Like I said, just the whole entire night seemed just off from us. And just to talk about the attendance and stuff, like it's funny. I don't know if I just think that like we are so, I don't know how to really describe it. Like we've been able to have such great attendance that when there's a little bit of fall off, we're like, oh my God, no one was here. But when you look at it, like, I think the official number was like 27,000. Even if it was like 20, Like most MLS teams would kill for that. And so I think it's just a testament to everybody that comes out, whether you're a season ticket member or just, someone that you can only get to maybe a handful of games or maybe, just 1 or 2 games this season. It makes a huge difference. And it's just so funny that like when there's a little bit of a drop off like that, it's like super noticeable.
Yeah.
But for me, it was Sunday, it was rainy, and just it's going to be difficult going forward, no matter how good we are, just to always have 30, 35,000 fans there. So I think it's kind of cool at the same time that when there is a drop like that, we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But like, yeah, other teams would kill for what we have. It's I don't know, it makes me kind of prideful that we have that many people going to games,
Yeah.
and it's pretty awesome.
I'll look at the silver lining from the cloud a little bit there, pun totally intended, that it's probably a good thing that we had a lower attendance on a game where we were so bad. We always talk about when we have like the upper tier open, we want to play really well, like we did when we beat Miami last year, because that's going to what attracts new fans back. I'm not sure there were many like casual fans there on Sunday. I think it was very much mostly like the hardcore, the real like Charlotte FC fans that have been coming week in, week out on Sunday that just had to be there. Anyone that was like so on coming to a game probably wasn't too many of those people on Sunday. So I take that as a bit of a silver lining that we didn't scare people off, hopefully.
Yeah. And the thing is like, if that goal would have went in from Bill, I mean, I think the fans, even though there was not as many, would have really like rallied. And sometimes, it is on the team to like get the fans going too, right? You can, the fans can only do so much. So there's definitely some give and take. We need to give the players energy, but also the players need to give us some energy. And I've seen some back and forth on that and some comments, but like at the end of the day, like it's one game, and I think we should be very, prideful that when we do have a drop off like that, it's still really good. I think I'm seeing comments here. Greg Fenwick saying we were third highest in attendance during the weeks. I mean, that's even with a massive fall off. It's pretty good. Yeah, Greg saying we're right behind Atlanta and Seattle, and ahead of LA Galaxy. I mean, yeah. So I know like some things have been going on behind the scenes, and there's been some drama and stuff like that. But our fans are crazy, and they're awesome, and they show up, and they continue to show up. And even though it was kind of crappy out, like a lot of people showed up to the game, and I'm really kind of thankful for that.
Yeah, and plus you're down 3-0 at home. Anyone in any league in the world, their home atmosphere is worse than when they're down 3-0 at home compared to when they're winning 3-2 with the last 5-minute winner. Every single time, no exceptions.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we're about 30 minutes into the show. Corey, I know you're in the background. If you want to throw up any question, we'll answer a kind of a one-off here and then kind of get back to it, and then we'll do the kind of official Q&A next. So, Corey, I don't know if you have anything kind of selected or whatnot, but so yeah, just let me know, and guys, keep bringing in the questions, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. Jay, what's up, Jay? Jay asks, just tuning in. We're done with Capetti, right? What do we and what could Dean possibly have to gain with more patience from Capetti? Yeah, we talked about this a little bit ago. Jay, I was saying that I was having to give myself therapy and remind myself that I was going to give Capetti kind of like a run of games before I make a real determination. And then immediately when he had a bad game last night, I was like, all right, I'm done. But I think after having a day or two to kind of think about it, like, yeah, I'm going to give him a little bit longer. I mean, he's going to be on the team. We're not selling him this window. Don't know if we even get rid of him in the summer. But I want him to do well. I just think the competition between him and Patrick's just way too close, and it should not be. So I think Capetti's got to step up. But at the same time, he still needs good service. He needs Brecht or Arfield or whoever is going to be in that cam role to like feed him the ball. Can't have Capetti in weird spaces, and you can't have Brecht in weird spaces at the same time. It's just not going to work. And I know last year we were kind of like, oh, will you please quit crossing and praying? But like, we really haven't had a lot of crosses. I feel like lately,
Yeah,
just to even mix it up some. What are
this
what
last
are your
game there
thoughts,
was a bit
Chantry?
more crossing and praying, but it's this season in general. There's been a lot less.
Yeah. Corey, I don't know if you're able to. You want to kick us off some
Yeah.
questions here?
Yeah, I was going to throw up a couple things, and I'm off camera tonight because I currently have a 3-year-old who's decided that sleep is not an option tonight. So she's in my lap, so I'm
Oh
keeping that
no.
off camera for a little bit. But yeah, I did want to. I threw out the petty question first, just because I know we already talked about it, but I just want to throw out those real quick. We had one that was asked before the show, which was a little tongue in cheek, I hope. But will Capetti ever score another goal in MLS? And like, I know it's kind of a joke question. There was a part of me that started thinking this weekend too. I'm like, will he ever score again? Like, will we see Capetti score? Like, it's got to come at some point, right? But the more it doesn't happen, the more you're like, well, maybe that's it. Maybe we're done here. But
Eventually you get lucky and something goes in off your ass, like 2 feet in front of the goal or something like that. I scored a goal in Sports Links games off the back of my head once from across from Ryan Bailey. Like, eventually, like, law of averages, you're bound to get one. Just it has to happen because you're there.
I like that. That's
Well,
good
yeah.
perspective.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the key. I think Capetti has to keep going. He has to get in good spaces. I want to see him create more chances himself. I want to see him beat someone off the dribble. I want to see him shoot the ball. We just haven't seen that. He's good with his head too, so he needs balls played into him. So hasn't been great. I think he started 6 or 7 games, 0 goals. I think he had 6 last season. So it's not a good turnaround, and you're also not getting an assist either. Like you're not creating, you're not getting assists, you're not scoring. So something's got to give there. But the thing is, like, okay, he's not getting service, but then like, okay, what about Patrick? Patrick's, not burning the league up, but he's at least getting shots on frame, scoring, doing something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was clicking through. There are a few other. Let me just let's get the Capetti stuff out of the way, since we've already talked about it. I believe that might have been the last one. There's a few other things, but all kind of in the same vein as what we're talking about there. So I'll pull up another few comments as we're looking at things. Just have to say that Mr. Gussler's been awful active in the chat for not being able to join the podcast today.
I don't know what is up with that.
So he's been posting a whole bunch in there, including that his contract, he's only here for the good vibes. And he said to ask management if you have a problem with that, which in parentheses he said Swift.
Oh man,
am
I the?
Your management
Is he stuck
apparently
on the toilet or something? Is that why he can't join? Like, is he sick?
Whatever
I think he's traveling. He might be in a hotel or something, right?
I don't. Whatever he's doing, it's not keeping him so busy that he can't be watching the stream and chiming in.
You can do good podcasts from a Motel 6.
There you go. Oh, I got to pull this up. Nate, he says, as Corey's resident referee. So Nate is the guy I've mentioned this on the podcast a few times. I'm assuming this is the Nate I'm talking about.
Oh,
he
yeah,
sits beside me in
nice.
my season tickets. He's a referee.
Yeah.
I really missed not having you there at this past match, by the way, Nate, because both me and Kevin were saying that we could have used some of your reactions to what was happening on the field from the referee perspective. When was Capetti's last contribution for the team? Goal, assist, or counterplay goal? Do we know? Like, when was the last time?
Jay actually answered that in the comment right above it, which was the previous week. With, ironically, which I didn't even intend for my comment to preface that, but off the back of his head.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah. I've watched that play back a couple times, and I don't think he knew much about it. I can't tell if it came off his
It's technically an
back of
assist,
his neck or the defender.
Really.
I
Oh,
I don't know.
Yep. Well, thank you, Nate, real quick for tuning in. I appreciate
we'll give it
that.
To him.
Yeah.
He needs.
Oh, we got Matt trickling in and out. All right. So let's
I'm
see.
back. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. All right, let's jump to some of the asked before the show questions. And then keep, again, throwing them into the comments if you have any additional questions. So we will come back to those and keep asking those. But let's see. We got a few from Russell. Russell's always good for asking us a few questions ahead of time. So we appreciate that. His first one: can we all agree to retire the purple Pop-Tart jerseys and never wear them in a game again? Whether or not you like the look of them, I feel like they don't bring us a whole lot of good vibes on the field.
They don't. They really don't. I was honestly thinking about that. I need to look back to see like how we've done in the mint, the mint kit purple one. Yeah, so far I don't think it brings us a lot of good luck.
We need Ryan Allen to give us like the stats on purple kit, especially at home, purple kit versus blue kit.
That is absolutely a Ryan Allen mission. I appreciate that. I don't know the actual numbers. I would love to see the actual numbers too, but I do feel like I remember, like, at least anecdotally saying that when we would be undefeated with the mint kit. Like, we went a long time, I think, not losing in the mint. So it had a very different feel when we were wearing that. So maybe it's maybe we lean more heavily into the Explorer kit for the rest of the season.
You know why we
the purple.
You know why we really lost though, right?
Why's that?
Because we didn't do the wave.
You don't.
It was too wet to do the wave. It was dangerous. If you did the wave in the wet seats, you would have fallen over or something.
Don't you dare get me back on that again. I'm never talking about the wave again.
We didn't do the wave and we lost. So can only. I'm just saying.
Paul Hagen says purple kit this weekend. So we'll see. We'll see if we can change things up. All right. Let me keep moving through here. Another one. I'll keep going through Russell's. His second question. What will it take for you to gain confidence in this team again? I'll let you start this time, Chantry.
Simply like just. I don't even think we need to necessarily win against New York City FC. I just want to see us play decently again, like most of the Toronto match. We don't need to be world beaters by any means. I just don't want to see, if we saw a performance exactly like the Minnesota game again, just in repeat, I would be extremely concerned, because at that point you're moving into Trent's territory and something's up. As long as we could even maybe lose by the odd goal. Obviously, I want to win for sure, but we could maybe even lose by the odd goal. But if we get our performance back, like Matt said before, MLS is a long season. We've got lots of time to recover from that. Even if we did lose, I need to see our performance just be much better. I want to see the players on the same wavelength again. I want to see that defensive organization that we had prior to the Minnesota game come back again. And hopefully with Malanda, we'll see that. That's what I want to see from the upcoming game.
Yeah, I agree. I think having Malanda back is key. But let me ask you that. We didn't touch on this, Chantry. What did you think about Jalen Lindsey? I know, no one really played well, but what are your thoughts with him specifically? I have some thoughts around it, but what do you think about him starting? Should Burns start? Hopefully he'll be back. I still don't know his current situation.
Yeah, I had some constructive debate with Vaughn about that. He's obviously a big Jalen guy, and I like Jalen as well. I think he's a good player. I think that in time, I think he can. Obviously, Nathan Burns a bit older. In time, Jalen could definitely potentially become our full-time first choice right back still. However, this season so far, especially, maybe not so much last year, but this season, I've seen a lot of very good defensive organization, good marking, good structure in defense when Nathan Burns has played. And every time we've played Jalen, I thought we've looked a little bit looser at the back. And that concerns me. I do think Jalen's probably better than Nathan going forward. I think his passing and his crossing abilities a little bit better than Nathan's perhaps. But primarily a right back is there to defend, and I think that Nathan Burns' experience and his knowledge of the game at this point is just on another level than Jalen's because of how much he's played, and I think you need that for us right now, especially as a team that's still trying to find their identity a little bit. I think that's needed at this point. But when Jalen has to come in, like from time to time, that's fine. He's a very good backup right back. I'm thinking there's a lot of teams in the league that would be happy to have a right back backup that's as good as Jalen.
Yeah, I think like the thing too. I've seen some of the debate, and it's not an either or for me. I think I think we have a good situation here because I've mentioned this before. Byrne is older, so he's not going to be around all that long, here or really anywhere. Like, and Jalen's young, so he's going to be learning, and I don't see why he can't be like a future, starting right back for us. He has a few years to still learn and get better. The thing with Jalen that I would like to see him work on, and it kind of happened again this game, and I don't know if this is by design or just tendency or kind of what, but he really gets pinched in. I was a stickler for that last season under Latanzio. I thought, sometimes we were too pinched in, and he tends to do that. And again, that he could be directed to be doing that. I need to kind of maybe figure that out, but that's the only, just positionally, sometimes he's suspect. Other than that, I think he's good defensively. He hustles, head on his shoulders. He can the ball well. I like when he gets forward. And again, he's going to have time to improve. So I think we're in a good spot having Byrne, who's playing well, and have him start. And then we'll get some minutes, and then kind of like the passing of the torch there too. But it's always good to have like a good option off the bench. So I'm not sure why we're saying like it's got to be an either or thing in some of the comments I've seen. But yeah, I just think Jalen needs to improve just a little bit in certain areas. But yeah, I'm a big Jalen fan too.
Yeah, and I'll go back to the original question from Russell real quick. Just what will it take to gain confidence in this team again? And I'll pull up Donnie's comment from way earlier when we first started, because I agree with this too. Donnie/Fatbird basically says, sucks how he lost, but he loved how Westy framed it after game over, on to the next one. Like I really, and maybe it's naive of me, but I mean, as bad as everything was on Saturday or Sunday, that was just an uncharacteristic. Everybody played awful. I'm not going to take huge takeaways for the rest of the season from that one match. That just felt like y'all were saying earlier, everything felt off. Everybody felt off. The stadium felt off. The players felt off. It was just a weird night, and let's just move on. And, if we put 2 or 3 games in a row like this together, then I start to worry a little bit more. But one match like that, let's just kind of forget about it and move on with our lives and look ahead to next week. So not overly concerned about things other than some of the same things we've talked about for 3 weeks now, which are, Capetti, Brecht, there's some of the recurring themes, those remain, but nothing new that really worries me.
I like the 24-hour rule of after a victory, enjoy it for 24 hours, and then you move on. After a loss, be pissed about it for 24 hours, move on. And I kind of do that a bit as a fan, as well as I would think players probably do as well, where like after you've felt your feelings from the result, okay, now it's time to get to work. We've got another one coming up in 5-6 days.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna institute for myself like a no tweeting policy after a loss. I'm just gonna no, I'm not. I'm just not gonna say anything, because I end up like the next day I'm like, oh man, that was a little harsh. So just not. I think I'm gonna start doing that.
Yeah, I did finally do that to myself at one point, of not just the social media part, but like, and maybe it's just because I'm trying to protect myself. But when any of my teams that I really care about lose, I avoid any conversation or any like sports TV or anything that might talk about the loss for a solid couple of days. Like I just don't want to even interact with the sport at all, because it'll just make me mad again. It'll just like bring me down again, or get me pissed off or something. So I just completely avoid it. And then like after like a day or two, I'm like, all right, I'm good. I'm excited to come back to the next week's match and we'll have a good time. So just a way to protect myself there. All right. One more question about all this, just because I thought the way he wrote it was funny. Spencer Croup says, Should the team hire someone and sage the stadium to rid whatever voodoo took place on Sunday? I don't know if you actually need to answer that question, but whatever needs to happen from a spiritual standpoint to get that stadium back into a good place, I'm for it. Let's try whatever we can.
For
I said
sure,
the other
for
day,
sure.
and anyone, what was everyone wearing on Sunday? What were they drinking? Where were they sitting? Change all of that for the next game. Don't repeat anything you did. Do it all completely differently.
That actually transitions perfectly into the next question, which is from Kate Kosterski. After the last two matches, we're all just a little bit superstitious, which you could just call stitious, right? Just a little stitious. Do you have any particular superstitions for your game day rituals? How about you, Matt? Do you have your superstitions for game day?
Well, I mean, it's kind of starting to be soccer and coffee, right? But I try to kind of wear the same things. But yeah, after this game, I'm like, I'll just maybe do the opposite of what I normally do. Just see if I could shake it up a little bit. And if enough people do this, if enough people collectively come together and just do something different, the team will win. So if everybody can just, change up a little bit.
That's how this works. How about you, Chantry?
I used to have one when I was a kid, which was a stupid one of like when we were on the way to games. I used to like tie up the end of my my scarf, and then you like pull the window up in the car and have the scarf like flying out the window as you drive along.
Yeah,
which was a weird thing that we just started for some reason. I think like one time Fulham didn't win a game, and we realized afterwards it's because we forgot to do it, so it became a thing after that. Sure, we probably lost a million times even after we did it, but it became a superstition. Here, I don't think I've got one yet that I've done. You do that stupid stuff in your head sometimes. I feel like where you like, if I do the dishwasher, then Charlotte FC are going to win or something like that. I like pump myself up into like doing menial tasks by saying it's going to somehow like put out good juju in the world.
I like that. That's a good strategy. Yeah, mine, and also if anybody has theirs that they want to share, throw them in the chat. I'm curious about your superstitions because I'm not crazy about it, but all mine are clothing related, and this is beyond just Charlotte FC, but like I always will wear the jersey the team is wearing, which is sad because like then I don't like ever wear mint to the stadium anymore. But like to me, I wear the color that the team is wearing that day, and then usually like either shoes or accessories or things, if we're on a hot streak, I always make sure to have those same things going. And if we lose a really bad match, I might get rid of those. But I do the same thing with like, I've talked about on the podcast before, like Carolina basketball is my other love. And so like for the tournament run, I would wear the exact same outfit for every tournament match, or tournament game. So it's all clothing related, nothing crazy as far as like rituals or anything, but I do very carefully select what clothing I'm going to wear based on what's going on. And Donnie apparently is similar because he says, "Are we brothers from another mother?" He says he's 0-1 in his new Asics, and so Eric Krakauer told him he's no longer allowed to wear them to the stadium.
I can attest to Donnie's weird clothing. He will wear the same things. He will stay in one room. He will drink the same thing. Donnie's very superstitious, and I love it.
Oh, I'm actually more than I realize. I also always sit in. So we have like our two seats. I always sit in the same one. Like I don't like sitting in the other one. Which I didn't even think about this till now. We bought extra tickets because we wanted our 3-year-old who's now in my lap. We might unplug the microphone in here in a second. And my wife and our other daughter, we all wanted to come together, so we bought 2 extra tickets on our row. So I was not sitting in my normal seat, so I have to take some of the blame for the loss on Sunday. I apologize for this, everybody. But it was a little bit on me. I wasn't in seat number 3, and that was the problem.
Burn the seat. Anything that happens, burn it.
Burn the seat.
Give some gas to the stadium. Actually, don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
The fire marshal might be listening. Don't do that.
Let's not encourage that. All right. Let's see. Let's keep jumping through questions. Again, keep throwing them in the chat. We'll keep getting to them. I'll go back to some of the ones we had from before the show started. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. Eric Hill asks, let me pull this up. All right. The first 7 games, our defense averaged less than a goal against, which was among the tops in the league. Our last 2 matches, we've given up 5 total. Is this simply a product of backup players playing in the defense, or is there something more tactical that teams have figured out to exploit? You want to take it, Matt Swift?
Well, yeah, I mean, what happened in the last 2 games? We've missed who? Nathan Byrne and Milan. So I think that's your answer, right? Or the big part of it, because defensively we've played really, really well. So I think that's the common denominator is you're missing 2 starters. And I mentioned this when we, we
Oh, I think we lost Matt Swift.
Yeah,
Totally
we lost Matt. I could feel it coming,
Right.
but
I can what's the political term?
Filibuster.
Yeah, filibuster for him while he comes in and answer the question.
Go for it.
So a couple of things. One, I agree with what Matt was starting to say. Absolutely not having our best centre back, arguably our best hitters, Matt. Arguably one of our top 3 players in Malanda playing Byrne, who I think has been really good this season. Like you change out 2 of your starting 4 defense, which has been good, you're going to get worse, and every single team is going to get worse in that situation. So that's definitely, I think, the vast majority of it. Also, there's a little bit of luck, and going back to superstitions that has kind of gone into it a little bit, perhaps there, where Minnesota didn't have that many chances to score 3 goals, like great chances to score 3 goals. They were just very clinical. Most situations like that, you're not going to see a team score 3 goals. They're probably going to score maybe 2 goals in that situation. So, and maybe even 1. I think their XG was something like 1.8. So they overperformed what was expected a little bit, and were just very clinical in front of goal. You're not going to see that in every game. So there's a little bit of that, and it maybe just affects the numbers a bit there. But then again, what Matt said, mostly you bring back Malanda, you bring back Byrne, and I think we're going to be much better in defense again.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I know we lost you, Matt Swift, but anything else you want to chime in on that wasn't said?
No, I've seen, I'm looking at some comments about Bill, like, this is Bill's coming back. This is his 2nd game. He's just, his decision making is not the best. It wasn't last season, and so far this season it's just not. I mean, I hate to say it, and he's paid too much money to keep making those bad decisions. I said that this game I was more excited to see him play because he then had a game under his belt. He would kind of be back in the swing of things, but he just, again, what was it, the 3rd goal? He gets beat in the air. There's another goal where he's just not in good positions and just not communicating. It's just not a good situation. So he's someone that's got to really step up to. I mean, he's just shaky right now. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the stats tell it all. He wasn't good last year, and he hasn't been this year. So I don't know. I think at some point you got to reevaluate that whole situation.
Yep, makes sense. All right, let's bounce over to some that have been asked earlier in the comments. Again, keep throwing them down there as we're going through this. Let's see. Let's keep talking about the defense. Couple of things, because this is related to a question we also have from before the show too. So David, who again very active in the chat, but not on the show. I'm just going to keep saying it. Is it concerning to see basically 2 games here where we allowed a lot of goals? Toronto could have been a game like Sunday in some ways, but we actually finished shots, so we got the advantage. But Sunday against Minnesota, we couldn't create. And then he continues. He says the announcers also mentioned that Minnesota was supposed to be in a 4-3-3, but switched to a 3-5-2 somewhat. And he says Toronto ran that against us. Is that the recipe against Charlotte FC? And just not like to keep adding questions, but there's just several that are similar. Dylan Scarangelli, I'm going to guess, what were the biggest weaknesses you saw Minnesota take advantage of, and how should the team address them going forward? So basically, to sum up the three questions a little bit is just like, what do you think you saw both either Toronto and Minnesota, or really just Minnesota? What were they taking advantage of in our system that caused all these goals to be scored? Is it something more systemic, or is it just kind of a fluky couple matches?
Swift, do you want to go first since you were cut off?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, this game we were beat out wide. I think teams are seeing that they can have a little bit of weight on the wings. And we just got killed. And like I said, Yuri did not have a good game. Jalen did not have a great game. We got beat over the top. I think just, again, the last two games, we've just been defensively out of sorts. Again, having two starters out. And what I was trying to say before I got disconnected there, like, we were fortunate to get past Toronto having two starters out of your back line. And anytime that happens, it just disrupts the flow of everything, because you get used to players' tendencies and where they're going to be and how they're going to cover for you when you go forward, or, you might need some help. And I think that's what's been working, is like, if someone's out of shape, you've had Milanda back there to kind of clean some things up. And sometimes vice versa. Andrew Privett's been able to kind of clean up some messes, but it's just with having those two out, it's just not been great. But I think our weakness, what we're seeing, is that we can get beat out wide. And I really hate when we pinch in too narrow and we allow people to, cross some things in. And I just think we've been defensively, just our shape has not been good. We need a leader back there to communicate and keep our shape.
Yeah, the 3-5-2 thing was an interesting comment. That was actually my go-to football manager tactic back in the day. Was if I was playing a team that I thought was better than the team I had, I played 3-5-2 or 4-5-1 and flooded the midfield a little bit. And they definitely just controlled the park and didn't let us. That they stifled us. So maybe that's a big part of what they did. Again, I don't think you'll necessarily see it going forward, maybe because I would hope that we'll have, again, Milanda and Burn back in. So we'll see what that does. But I think you can't take the last two games as view it for the whole season, because there's too many team changes in defense.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's see here. Go to one other from our comments. Donnie, also very active in the comments. He asks, does it seem like we're the Mike Tyson of MLS, where we have to get ahead early, but if teams hang with us long enough, we become susceptible? Which is something I've always had this gut feeling with us too. It's like, if we don't jump out to a good lead and take control, I get very nervous about the team. So yeah, Matt, you seem like or I can't just say Matt now. I'm not used to having two Matts as the hosts. So Matt Swift, you seem to be nodding your head with some thoughts there.
Yeah, I was a Mike Tyson fan, and that was the thing. Like, he comes out with a flurry of punches, and he's punching hard, because he's even said that, like, he needed to win and win fast because he would just get winded. And I think he may have had some like medical issues that no one knew about. But like, yeah. We got to come out early, and again, Minnesota was the team that we should have done that. We just did not implement our style of play. I think Dean Smith kind of alluded to that, right? We just did not get off on a good start and didn't take advantage of those super early chances. And if we would have, this would have been a different story. But we did in Toronto, against Toronto, and we did in this match, and that was really the difference.
Every game we've conceded first this season, we've lost. I think I'm looking at that correctly. I just wanted to double check myself. I believe that that's correct. And Dean Smith has definitely come to us with a reputation of what he does first is like he gets the team structurally well built and solid and hard to beat. And if you're a team that's hard to beat and you've not got much else yet because you're going to build on that, then if you go behind, it's kind of difficult to make the next step from there. So I think you're seeing that play out a little bit where it's Dean's strategy, and I'm not saying it's the right one or a wrong one necessarily, but if we're going to be hard to beat and we let the first goal, it's tough from that point onwards. We just need to have more going forward. I think we'll get there. Hopefully, you're going to see players coming in the summer. You're going to see Dean have more time with the team and players build chemistry more, especially Abada, who we didn't speak much about earlier, but I think he's going to get better and better as he spends more time with us. So I think we'll have more chances to come back from behind sometimes as the season goes on. I think it's just been rough to start with because we're trying to build who we are still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry, Corey. One of the things that we struggle with is that if we don't score early and the opposing team does score, they're able, and we talked about the team will hunker back, right? And we have always had a hard time breaking teams down because we're still not creative enough, and our passing is not crisp enough to break a team down once they hunker in like that. And that's the worry. We've got to start getting better at, and we have Abada now, but you have to have somebody that can take the ball at their feet when they're hunker back like that and make something happen. We haven't had that, and I think that's what happened to us in this match. They got up and then just not able to break them down.
Yeah, and I wanted to pull up, I know before you jumped in, I wanted to pull up this comment from Paul Hagen because you're talking about Abada. Not that anybody looked really good, again, in this match, but Paul says Abada was much more direct and driving up the middle, should open up some more options for crosses in from the wings, which I agree with. But again, like even in a bad game where no one looked really good, and I think y'all were talking about this earlier, if we were talking about the same play, is when we had that, kind of breakaway counter early in I believe it was in the first half, and Abada, just seeing him, he took the ball straight at the middle of the field. I mean, didn't hesitate, just zoomed forward. It obviously got caught in his feet. Like what happened at the end of it wasn't great, but again, having a player who just gets the ball and just goes and puts pressure on the defense like that is just, I love seeing him do that, and I can't wait to see kind of how it develops here. That was, if I could think of any bright spots from the match on Sunday, that was one of them, was seeing that moment and the way he attacked in that moment.
I've noticed him do that a couple of times now, where he's kind of like not just going like down the wing and crossing it, but he's like faking out the defender and then coming in and coming inside. I wonder if eventually, and I would really hope to eventually maybe start seeing more overlapping fullback runs past him, because as he does that, he's going to pull the defense across. You're going to see that space open up. I don't think we're built to do that now, but he maybe gives us the option to do that as things go forward.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I got one little thing with that too. If Abada's going to be doing that, whoever is in the middle, whether it be Brecht or Arfield, they have to be mindful. And again, Brecht is, for me right now, really bad about drifting into other people's spaces. So if Abada is going to cut inside, Brecht has to not be drifting out wide, because his man is going to drift over with him, and it's going to cut off Abada. So you've got to be mindful and smart enough. And as Abada starts cutting in, you got to get out of the way. You then have to move into a good space where you can get a pass from him or something. But I just think that triangle and that dynamic's just not working right now. So I just need whoever's going to be that playmaker in the middle. It's got to do a little bit better. Yeah,
and the optimistic part of me is that that'll come with more familiarity as they play together more, hopefully. Or they got to figure something out there. But this is only still what is his third match, fourth match. What is it? It's not many.
Third start, fourth total, I think.
Yep, that sounds about right. Yep. I'll pull up this from Nate again, just because I saw this pop in. He asks, I noticed it, but the radio broadcast said it too. It seemed like the gents didn't play together at all. Does that come from not being able to finish? Are the lads starting to lose trust in each other? Any thoughts on that?
Swift, do you want to go first?
Yeah, no, I think again, hopefully this is just a one-off situation, but I want us to work on final third finishing and designing plays when we get into that attacking third. Like I want us to work on when a Bada has the ball at his feet, cutting in. What happens to the rest of the team? Where does Enzo Capetti? Where does he take up space? What happens with Breck? Where does Vargas go? Does he go back post? Like I want us to start. I hate to say designing plays, but like we've got to start working on where does everybody move when a player, it could be Vargas when he cuts in to try to take a shot. How do you clear out space for him? You know, Enzo and Breck need to clear out so Vargas can cut in and take a shot. So I think that's where we really need to focus and work on.
I'll just say I like the use of the word gents in that question.
Gents
So,
and
like,
lads.
it's like a
We got
class
both in
question.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. A couple more things. I know we're over an hour now, so we'll start to wrap things up here. One that's not actually about the match, but I thought this was an interesting question. Way back when we first logged in, Blake asks, is Bank of America allowed to post the chants on the big screen when the supporters start the chants? And I know that we do the QR code, right? And like the QR codes in certain places, you know, throughout the thing. But I think Blake means like actually post the words, kind of like we do with Brain Stew, where it's like flat. I mean, this is a much simpler version, but like flash up the CLT or in the first match when they actually put the lyrics up there. How would that maybe affect the rest of the fans if you actually put the lyrics to, you know, some of the chants up there while we were doing them? Any thoughts on that? I'll start with
It's
you
just
this
hard
time,
to do in
Chantry.
practice, mostly because chants by nature are a bit off the cuff, and like it's tough to like be like, oh, they're doing this one now, put that one up. Plus, you've got like the video, obviously, of the game going on at the same time on there, things like that. So it's kind of, I think it's just tough logistically to do that.
Yeah.
I know obviously they put the QR codes up there right now, and there's the little chip in the scarves as well,
Yep.
and the signs outside the support section and things like that. And there's been chant cards done in the past. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that. I don't think it can be done logistically.
Yeah, it's a good thought for sure. Because it would be a good way for everybody to kind of start learning. But to Chantry's point, like, and he's been a capo before where he's led chants and stuff like that. You kind of do things in the moment. So you would literally have to, Matt, if he was leading the chants, he would literally have to get on a walkie-talkie and be like, hey, I'm about to do this chant. And then like somehow like radio up to the people to get it on the screen. It would just, it would take a while for the chance to actually start because, you know, you have to get radio, all that stuff. So it's a good thought for sure. But it's just really, it'd be really tough to execute. And I don't know if, and honestly, I don't know if there's like weird rules, like MLS rules where you can't have stuff like that going on the screen. I don't know. There could be some like weird stuff with that too. So
there's a lot of weird MLS rules. So that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah. I wondered about that.
Yeah.
Too.
I'm just going to assume there's just a weird rule.
All right, one more from the comments before I jump over to, I think, our last question from before the show started. J Forest, who in a string of questions were basically saying that he has lost faith in Capetti very clearly. So one of his last versions of that was, should we start seeing Tavares with a few spells at striker? I'll start with you, Swift. What do you think?
Yeah, Jay is not a fan of Capetti.
It was very clear from the whole string of things happening. It was definitely an anti-Capetti thing happening. But I thought I hadn't really thought about this at all, so I just figured I'd throw this question out.
Yeah, I mean we have Patrick of course. I think where Tavares kind of lacks and something he's got to work on is just his defensive responsibilities. But you know, there could be some games where he can get that chance. But hey, he had a chance this game and didn't score. He had a free header, didn't even get it on frame, and should have. So it's kind of tough to be like, yeah, put him up top when he got a chance and didn't even remotely get it on frame and should have, because like I said, it was wide open. So it's just disappointing. And you know, when you're a young player like that, you don't get a lot of chances, and you got to make the most of them. So I don't know. I think Tavares has very, very raw. I think he needs to improve. So I'm not at J level yet. I'm still holding out that Capetti can hopefully, fingers crossed, make something happen, because I really want him to. Like, I don't want to have to keep coming on the show week after week and be like, well, Capetti didn't do well again. So
that'd be a refreshing change of pace, is to have all these positive Capetti questions and talking about, good things he's done. But maybe that day will come. Anything you want to add, Chantry?
I pretty much agree with Matt there, that I think Tavares needs just to get some minutes this season here and there. He'll need game time now and again. I don't think he's a starting player yet. I've thought every time I've seen him play, he always plays like a bit clumsy. Someone mentioned that before the season, and I think you definitely see it play out. And sometimes that actually works out in his favor. He kind of stumbles through someone, and then he's the other side of them with a ball, and you're like, how the hell did that happen? It's funny, and I think he can definitely maybe become decent in time, but he's young, needs more time, needs a lot of coaching. I still feel like to kind of get to the place. His positioning sometimes is a little bit off. At least when he's been on the wing this season. So I want to see him improve there as well.
Yeah. All right. One last question before we wrap it up with anything else you want to close out with. Russell, we'll come back to Russell for his last question, because I like this. I remember there was a point last season where we were in a really bad spot, and so we made a point to ask only fun, lighthearted questions to try to ease the vibe of the podcast and the fan base. This is the opposite version of that.
Why did you start the show with those questions?
No. But this is the opposite version of that. This is what I'm saying. This is going a different direction, a different way to take this. So instead of talking about happy things going on or fun things, Russell says, we all know that we're angry about soccer right now. What non-soccer related things are you also mad about currently? So let's just lean into the mad part. Anything else that's sticking in your craw? I'm going to say sticking in your craw, Matt Chantry.
Oh, so many things. Some that I don't want to say because I'll get in trouble. What's the one that I saw today? I'll do one that I saw today, just like a local Charlotte one, where there was Charlotte Magazine, I believe it was, talking about Nodar. For those of you that don't know, I moved into Nodar recently. Really like the neighborhood a lot. And they were talking about how all the apartment buildings going up in Nodar are destroying it. And I was like, well, they're being built on land where nothing was before. It was just dead space. And you've still got all the fun stuff in Nodar. If people want all the fun stuff and cool things about Nodar, most of which are still there, not to go away, then go to them, frequent them as consumers of them, and spend your money there, because then they're going to have the money to be able to stay and continue to be a good and viable business and member of the community. So I get annoyed at people complaining about things changing, when sure, sometimes change is bad, but don't knock change for change's sake. If you're not removing something that's old, if you're just replacing nothing, then in my opinion, it's sometimes a good thing. Plus, my wife's in urban design. She works for the city in an important role. She's much smarter than me, which is probably low bar, but density is where it's at from a city perspective. So I went deep into my answer there, maybe more so than I intended. But
no, that was good. How about you, Swift?
Oh man, this happened to me again this week. It's like a pet peeve of mine too, and it just happened to me this week. So I'm at the grocery store, and I'm not doing the self checkout, right? Because I've got quite a bit of groceries, and I'm standing in line for quite a while. It's super busy, so I don't mind, but finally the cashier finally calls someone else up, and they the guy comes up and he opens up the register right beside of me, but he takes the people behind me that had just walked up for 2 seconds ago, and they just get to go. And I'm like, I've been standing here for ever. And it's such a pet peeve of mine, because I see it happen all the time. I'm like, wait a minute. So I still have to stand here I've been standing here, and the person that just walked up, you're gonna grab them. They should just get the next person in the line, but they happened to be this week, and I just kind of chuckled though. I really didn't get mad. I was just like, all right, well, there you go. But yeah, that's the only thing I'm really kind of like, mad about right now. So
no, I get that because mine relates to line skipping in a way. So this is just my forever anger right now. You're getting ready to hear about. But as part of my commute home, I have to go from 277 to 74, which if you know anything about that exit, it's, coming around, if you're coming around, I guess the outer loop of 277, and you're trying to go down Independence out of town, that exit backs up really bad because it's a really wonky exit. And there's just a lot of cars trying to come in and it backs up really bad. And that's fine. The backing up isn't what makes me mad. What makes me mad are all the people who zoom up to the very front and then cut over at the last possible second of that merge. And especially the ones who basically make a third lane using the median area. They'll just come over and create their own third exit lane and someone will let them in. And I'm telling, I get to that point of my drive, and I am hunched up over the wheel, looking at everybody. No one is getting in front of me. It's not today, my friend. No one is getting in front of me.
Angry about that, or angry about people's opinions on the wave, Corey?
The wave was what I talked about, but I decided I'm not doing that again this week. So this is the thing that has made me mad for years now that I have to deal with.
I have to clarify something with this though quickly. Is this a zipper merge situation or is it not a zipper merge situation? Because I know people have opinions on
it's not. Merge. Yeah, so I know where you're going on zipper merge. I'm fine with zipper merges. This is not. It's a really weird merge, which is part of the problem. So there's one exit lane. There is a zipper merge that comes into it. That's fine. That's a separate situation. When you actually get to the exit, there's another on-ramp coming on. So they're trying to get across 2 lanes of traffic to get onto 277. While the exit lane is trying to go off. And so people are taking advantage of the fact that we're leaving space for the oncoming traffic, and they'll cut in up there to do it. Because I agree with you, zipper merge, pull up to the front of, go all the way on a zipper merge. It makes traffic better. Use the whole zipper merge lane. I am all for that. But this is a different situation, and this is my daily, and you can tell I have opinions on it. This is second only to, This and the Wave. I will make a whole podcast about This and the Wave, and it'll just be me Corey.
I'm going to pull up there in an evening one day this week and just sit there and wait for you to come by, Corey, and do it just to see what happens.
I get so ridiculously sanctimonious about it too, because I'm because to me it reeks of my time is more important than yours, and that really bugs me. And that's true about all of these other things. When people do things where it's the rules don't apply to me because I'm more important and my time is more valuable. So I'm just going to skip this line that everybody else is waiting in and just jump up there and do it. And that mentality just drives me bonkers. And so this is the iteration of it I see the most is this exit where people zoom up and then cut through what's not a lane to get in front of everybody else. But it manifests itself in a lot of other ways too. I promise I'm not going to make this show just me ranting about random things. Y'all got to stop letting me on.
Though, Corey, about queues. The British are not good at many things, but we are world champions at queuing.
I fully appreciate that. It's an important part of society is the ability to get in line in a civil way and everybody wait their turn.
When we first went to Disney World when we were kids, my parents used to complain about the Americans not knowing how to queue in the line at Disney World, constantly. I think that they had that conversation more often than any other conversation on that trip.
Oh yeah,
it angered my mum so much.
Yep, that's me at theme parks. I get that completely. Oh yeah, so Nate also added especially if they don't wave. If you're gonna be the jerk and pull up and cut off, I at least need you to wave and pretend like you're being nice about it. If you also are cutting me off and you don't wave, that's just the extra level of we're not friends today.
Waves in general in any form annoy Corey, or don't annoy Corey.
I'm pro all waves. Waves in traffic to thank someone for letting you in. Waves in stadium. Waves at the beach where I'm going this weekend. I am just pro waves. Let's have all the waves.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we're done with questions. close it out, Matt? Anything else you want to talk about?
All right. No, I think that's it. Yeah, we'll put out the match preview Thursday or Friday, and we'll have the watch party this weekend. But yeah, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that came out Sunday. Appreciate everyone coming out in the rain, and just appreciate everybody out there that tunes into the show, whether it be on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or anything. I know you may not always agree with us, but I just really truly appreciate you guys tuning in each week, and it means a lot to me, and I know it does. Corey and David and Matt, thank you for stepping in for Gusler, who's somewhere. Where is he? Is he in Myrtle Beach? Where is he? What's he doing?
Yeah, he's definitely
no.
Yeah.
No, he had an important meeting. Remember, he had his meeting with I don't really remember who it was actually. He had a meeting that he'd forgotten about. So I think he's at his home with
earbuds. Is he finally getting you guys that cookout sponsorship? Is that what the meeting's about?
I hope so. That's really what it should be about.
Yeah.
But I think he's multitasking in this very important meeting with his headphones in. So we'll make sure we check his calendar next week and get him on the podcast so that he's not double booked with us. So we can have him back next week.
I should shout out as well quickly, just because you mentioned it, Matt, as well, and I led into it earlier. I think the watch party's at Salute again this Saturday. The away match at New York.
Yeah, we won't be doing a live show this time because Corey's going to the beach, David's going to the beach, so I missed out on the whole beach thing. So, but no live show. Just gonna go and have fun. Hopefully everybody will come out and have some fun, and maybe we can get some redemption this weekend.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll check back in later this week with the preview show.
See you guys.